Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Gains for Girls podcast. I have become quite the pincushion lately. I have managed to get under the skin of the leader of the Democratic Party, which is actually not that hard to do when you have viewpoints like I do. But how? How did I do it? How did I manage to get under the skin of AOC? I did this by saying socialism is bad, and that if given the opportunity, socialism will destroy America. But Democrats have made it very, very clear that they are not fighting for the American dream anymore. That's become abundantly clear, especially over the past few years. No, they're not fighting for the American dream. They are fighting for that socialist fantasy. And it's a losing battle every single time. Just ask Venezuela, ask Cuba, ask North Korea. Now, some of you probably know, New York City is about to have a self-described Muslim democratic socialist for their mayor. His name is Zohran Mamdani. This podcast is not about Mamdani or the harmful policies, destructive, dangerous policies that he supports, but I do believe it's important to mention just a few. He wants to defund the police. He wants to get rid of billionaires altogether. He wants to seize the means of production. He wants to globalize the intifada. He wants to open up our prisons. He wants to disarm law-abiding citizens. He wants to seize your property. He wants free, taxpayer-funded child mutilation and healthcare for illegals. I could keep going. You get the point, right? These are just a few of the policies that he admits with no shame, which is a pretty terrifying thought because you can only imagine that his real plans are far more sinister than what he's admitted publicly. Now, as I said, this podcast is not about Mamdani, but I do believe it's important to mention some of the policies that he supports because that's who AOC was out campaigning with in New York earlier this week. And before we get into this social media feud between AOC and myself, I just want to show you guys a very quick video to highlight how far we've come, or really better yet, how far we have fallen. Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright has a few choice words for AOC. She believes that there is a special place in hell for her. She said this at a Hillary Clinton rally in 2016. Watch here.
And a lot of you younger women don't think you have to, it's been done. It's not done. And you have to help. Hillary Clinton will always be there for you. And just remember, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other.
Look, I didn't say it. It wasn't me. That was Madeleine Albright, again, the former Secretary of State. And clearly, those young women that Madeleine Albright was trying to, fearmonger did not turn out for Hillary Clinton, as you all know, and praise God for it. Now, as I said, AOC and Bernie Sanders were in New York City earlier this week campaigning with Mamdani. Nearly a year ago to the day, I was in New York City at Madison Square Garden for the Trump rally leading up to the 2024 election. I remember being in one of the box suites and watching the rally, and I was so excited because Elon Musk had the opportunity to speak. And when he concluded his speech, he grabbed his chest in a heartfelt gesture and threw his hands out. And what did mainstream media do? What did the elected Democrats like AOC do? They labeled him as a Nazi, saying that he was making a Hail Hitler sign. 1 year later, here's AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Mamdani, weirdly enough, making the exact same gesture. But that's besides the point. I posted this photo on my social media with the caption, "We're being destroyed from within." The people on this stage self-described themselves as socialists. So the point that I was trying to get across is that socialism will destroy America. AOC just could not miss an opportunity to name call. So what did she do? She quote tweets my tweet and says this, "Maybe if you channeled all this anger into swimming faster, you wouldn't have come in fifth." Now, if you watch this podcast, I probably don't have to give you a lot of background on me or what it takes to be an elite athlete, but I'm going to anyways. I swam at the Division I level. Important to mention that only 7.6% of high school athletes go on to play in college, and of that, there's about roughly 2% who play at the Division I level. Now, of that 2% who are playing D1, only about 1% in my sport qualify for the national championship, which is the most elite, most prestigious, fastest meet in the entire world. Comparatively, the NCAA Division I Women's Swimming and Diving Championship is even faster than the Olympics because of how much depth the U.S. has and how people from all across the world come to the U.S. to go to college and participate in NCAA sports. Now, of that 1% that make the national championship meet, there are only 8 women, I use air quotes if you're not watching on youtube.com/OutKick, there are only 8 women who make the A final and are All-Americans in their event. Now, the race that AOC is referring to is the 200 freestyle at that national championship, where I ultimately raced Will Thomas. We ended up tying for 5th. This race happened the day after I watched Will Thomas win a national title, meaning he beat every woman in the entire country by body lengths, might I add, in the 500 freestyle. Now, in this 200 freestyle, did I go my best time? No. Is it something that I'm proud of? Absolutely. Being top 5 in the nation, I would love to know what AOC is top 5 at in the country. And if they think 5th place is bad, what in the world do they think about 462nd? Because that's what Will Thomas placed amongst the men just 12 months prior, before switching to the women's category, where ultimately he would then dominate and become some record smasher. He was a very mediocre male swimmer, never qualifying for the national championships in his rightful division. Couple things here. This comment is just so snide. It's basically that same tired idea we've heard from the Democratic Party and those who support men stealing our opportunities and our spots on the podium over and over and over again, that women aren't allowed to be angry when we're screwed over. And if we are, then there's something wrong with us as women, as female athletes. And also this notion that women lose against men in sports because we just don't try enough, because we're lazy. Maybe we should have just swam faster. It's dismissive, it's condescending, and honestly, it's totally sexist. You would never hear a politician telling the 5th best basketball player, the 5th best football player in the country that they were just bad, objectively bad at their sport. No, they would only feel comfortable and confident and secure in saying that to a woman. And not to mention, this is one of those comments that really only lands with like-minded people who know nothing about sports, especially elite sports. And for those who do know about sports, it just makes you take a step back and wonder, regardless of where you stand politically, like, what else are you being either ignorant or deceptive about? For the life of me, I cannot understand this line of attack. I cannot understand why AOC would make this comment, given the fact that it's been proven that this is a losing issue, right? Of course, nearly 100% of Republicans agree that men should not be in women's sports. But every Gallup poll shows 60 to 70% of even the Democratic Party, AOC's own party, agrees that men should not be in women's sports. So why make this comment? Why are they hellbent on being on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue? It doesn't matter if it's the border, it doesn't matter if it's crime, castrating kids, parental rights, or clearly the men and women's sports issue. I mean, really think about it. Rather than taking the side of the women who are speaking up for equal opportunity, equality, they love that word, right? Safety in our sports, privacy in areas of undressing. No, that's not whose side they take. They take the side of the 6'4" man who flashed his junk at those same women in the locker room. I really thought after the 2024 election, when Donald Trump, really Republicans across the board in the House, the Senate, and of course the Oval Office, they won resoundingly. I really believed, naively, I guess, that the Democrats would slowly begin to recant from their statements they had issued and the policies they supported and their voting records, but that's not at all what they have done. They've doubled down, and they will continue to double down until their last dying breath. I believe they are far too prideful and really far too evil to admit fault or to feel shame in any capacity, especially when it comes to protecting women. And AOC is someone who claims to be a feminist. Let's not forget it. So I respond back. I say, it's always we support women's rights until it's a woman who wants the right to compete and undress free from less than mediocre men. Keep your mentally ill men out of our sports, locker rooms, prisons, etc. Following this initial interaction on X, I was set to go on Laura Ingram's program on Fox News that night. Of course, she asked me about this feud that had been started. And so, rather than name-calling or mudslinging like AOC did to me, I figured what a reasonable thing to do to just challenge her to a debate. Check out the clip here.
Exactly. Now, Riley, you criticized AOC, Mamdani, and Sanders, kind of the socialist triplets, on X last night, writing that we are being destroyed from within. And AOC actually responded to your tweet, maybe we'll put it up on the screen, writing that maybe if you channeled all this anger into swimming faster, you wouldn't have come in 5th. Wow. Riley, I responded to that saying, wait, what Division I sport did AOC play? Was that mixology varsity letter she got? I'm not sure what she did in sports, but your reaction to her petty tweet.
Look, her position is morally bankrupt and it's politically foolish. For clarity, Laura, yes, I finished 5th in the nation at the Division I National Championships, tying with a 6'4" man who ranked 462nd in the men's division the year prior. It was like a South Park episode, but real life. And whose side does AOC and the rest of the Democratic Party take? They take the 6'4" man who flashed his junk at women in the locker room. That's whose side they take. They cannot help themselves but be on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue, whether it's border, whether it's crime, whether it's castrating children, whether it's parental rights, whether it's men and women's sports. So here is what I will say. I want to honestly challenge AOC to a debate. She can defend socialism. I will defend capitalism. She can defend removing God. I will defend embracing a biblical worldview. She can defend child sacrifice. I will defend the sanctity of life. Any of the radical, insane Democratic policies and platform that they stand for, I will debate the opposite. I'm challenging AOC to it here.
I thought you were going to challenge her to like a freestyle, 100 freestyle or something. I'm like, that's
that too.
That's an unfair fight. Or
a fair fight to her is putting a man in the pool.
Yeah, no, you could wear like 100-pound weight and challenge her to it. That would be fair, actually. Mark and Riley, both of you, thank you so much.
Now, did I think AOC was going to accept my proposal? No, I didn't. But she is an elected member of Congress. I figured it's part of their job to debate and have discourse with one another, especially those on the other side of the political aisle. And again, I just thought this was a more effective way of getting my point across than name calling. And trust me, there are a lot of names I could call AOC, but I have refrained because number one, it's just simply not effective. But two, my positions, the things that I stand for, are defensible, meaning I can back them up. Clearly, AOC cannot, because she responded back with this to my challenge to a debate. She says, and I would like to challenge this person to get a real job. The hubris in this. It's comical given the fact that it's coming from someone whose own party shut down the government, which technically left her jobless. And there's no real end in sight, by the way, of this government shutdown. I thought for a while about how or if I even really wanted to respond to this at all, because I mean, it's simply not true, right? Of course I have a job. No, it's not conventional. No, I'm not going into an office or sitting behind a desk, but there's lots of different things I do. I'm the host of this podcast. I wrote and published a national best-selling book. I'm an employee with Turning Point USA, worked for several different nonprofits and organizations. So it's simply not true. But then I began to really think about what I wanted to say. And I responded back to AOC and I said, I have a real job. I'm a mom. It's the most important and rewarding job in the world. I think if you had a baby girl like I do, you would understand my positions a little better. And I really mean that. I've said it several times on this podcast. Like, when I think of our daughter and the future that I want her to inherit, the world that I want her to grow up in, that's precisely why I fight. That's precisely why I work the different jobs that I do. It's for my daughter. It's not for me, right? I'm done playing sports. It's not about my success as an athlete. Like, I'm very much a swammer, okay? It's past tense at this point. It's about my daughter. And I think if AOC had a kid, and look, this isn't me necessarily encouraging AOC to reproduce, but I will say I think if she did have a kid, especially a little girl, she would probably feel a little bit differently about a grown man exposing himself to her daughter. But on the other hand, she has proven herself to be a self-absorbed, misogynistic socialist. So maybe not. As you could probably imagine, outside of her crony base, her comments did not bode well with your everyday person. This person said, AOC just said F you to every normal parent whose daughter is passionate about sports and, of course, the daughters themselves. What do you need fair sports for, peasants? This person says, so the AOC platform is, LOL, you got beat by a dude in a women's league, and being a mom isn't a real job. She is the parody of Democrat dysfunction. This person says, I see AOC as hell-bent on plunging the ragged remains of the Democrats off the cliffs of transgender insanity. This guy says, these AOC attacks against Riley Gaines only prove my point about leftists. They will claim to be pro-woman, pro-black, pro-gay, pro-whatever you are until you go against them. Then their true feelings about you will come out. The hate and evil coming from them will be palpable. This person says, maybe if your party had channeled all of this energy into supporting women's rights, you wouldn't have come in second. That's pretty funny. This person says, obviously I'm biased, but I actually don't have negative feelings about AOC. And even if I try to step back from my politics, I find this really off-putting and shallow. This person says, this plays well to AOC's crowd, but it is this attitude that means AOC is never going to be more than she currently is in U.S. politics. It's a pity to see a female politician waste her talent like this. This person says, quote, "Come first and it won't matter if there's a man in the pool and your changing room." Isn't a very convincing argument. I like this one. This guy says, either her comps people are drunk or her judgment is clouded by spite plus bubble-induced ignorance about how many women feel very strongly about this. She's now down at Olbermann's level. And this one says, wow, AOC now indistinguishable from SHIT posting misogynist Keith Olbermann. And wouldn't you know, Keith Olbermann, of course, he never misses an opportunity to tweet at me. He said this right here in response to my challenge to AOC to a debate. He says, why at Riley Gaines haven't finished 5th lately? But like I said, normal people outside of their followers on social media see this for what it is, which is politically ignorant and morally bankrupt. And last thing I have to say about AOC, she is the queen of speaking in sound bites.
Just remember, in a time such as this, we are not the crazy ones, New York City. We are not the outlandish ones, New York City. They want us to think we are crazy. We are sane.
All I have to say is that if you have to publicly declare that we are sane, chances are it's because you're insane. I am all for AOC running for president in 2028 and making men and women's sports her top issue. I really think you'll win if you do that, AOC. Now, if you thought AOC's comments towards me were out of touch and distasteful, just wait until you hear what Jennifer Welch and Angie Sullivan have to say about me. I didn't know who these people were, so if you don't, I don't blame you. I had to look it up. This is what Wikipedia says. Jennifer Welch and Angie Sullivan are co-hosts of the popular podcast I've Had It and are best known for their time on the Bravo reality show Sweet Home, Oklahoma. Now, I've been tagged in this video several times on X. I watched it for all of 2 seconds before I swiped out. I didn't want to subject myself to this yet. I figured I'll watch this live. You will get my raw reaction. Let's watch it together.
One thing I want to say about Riley Gaines, as she sits there and has the moral high ground against AOC, when I look at people, if I were to say who's more Christ-like, I would pick AOC and the atheist Jew Bernie Sanders and the Muslim Zoran Mamdani a million times over you, Riley Gaines.
Notice how she's addressing me directly. She says, you, Riley Gaines. I guarantee you, she would never say what she's going to say next, whatever might come out of her mouth, which there's really no telling. I guarantee you she would never say it to my face. Let's keep going.
Because Riley Gaines, all you do is hate on people.
If by hate on people, she means call men men and women women and tell men they can't become women and women they can't become men, then sure.
You are wound up like a cheap clock over trans people. You show them no grace, no compassion.
First of all, I think the most graceful, kindest, most compassionate thing you can do, the most loving thing you can do to someone who believes they were born in the wrong body is to tell them that they're perfect the way they are created. I think that's showing a lot of grace and compassion and empathy to people who call themselves trans. Keep going.
You defend billionaires.
You
cheer
defend George Soros.
And celebrate when children are zip tied. And then you have the
celebrate when children are zip tied. Did this woman say anything about the nearly 350,000? That's the number that's reported. So actually, I bet that number is higher. The 350,000 children that went missing who crossed the border illegally under Biden. I don't think so. Let's keep going.
audacity to get on television and try to lecture people who fight for the people that are suffering, that stand and put their arms around people that need sanctuary. And you try to act like you're better than they are. You're an insufferable twat. Nobody likes you. And no matter what, you will always have been the dumb bitch that tied for 5th place. And the only place that you could get a job is at bottom feeder Fox News, you insufferable twat. Nobody likes you except for the other fake Christians that enjoy in their spare time watching children get zip tied and then sit there and justify it while they read the Bible with their hideous crucifixes around their necks. So fuck you, Riley Gaines.
Quite the tirade there. Look, honestly, listening to that, it breaks my heart. It really does. Like, just so much anger and so much rage that is so disproportionate to anything that I have ever said or that I have ever done or advocated for. Man, I just wonder if women like this will ever eventually wake up and be embarrassed that they behaved in this way. I mean, these are grown women. or if they will actually commit their lives to defending what is possibly the most ridiculous delusion of all time. Again, the idea, the belief that men can become women, that men can get pregnant, that men can have menstrual cycles. Man, this is it doesn't make me sad or upset to hear those comments about myself, to have this woman, again, a woman I've never heard of. That's not, throwing any shade at her. I've just never heard of this woman. For her to say that people don't like me. Look, 77 million people in the U.S. voted for Donald Trump. And I'm not saying that all 77 million of those individuals who voted for Trump have to like me, but you have to imagine that 99.9% of them agree with the idea that men shouldn't be in women's sports. Again, that's like, for clarity here, Jennifer Welch and Angie Sullivan, I believe is her name, they're saying those things about me because of the viewpoints and the beliefs that I have. If you share that belief, they think the exact same thing about you. It is just such harsh words. I'm kind of taken aback. And it's seemingly become that fewer and fewer people are capable of genuine self-reflection and just engaging with each other honestly. It feels like these lines are drawn and everyone is just firmly in their camp. I just want to cap things off here by sending a message directly to the women. Ladies, I urge you, I implore you, do not become like the women I just showed you in that clip, Jennifer Welch and Angie Sullivan. Shallow, self-absorbed individuals who must tear other people down just to feel the smallest shred of self-worth. They're unhappy and they want you to share their misery. They cannot admit when they're wrong because doing so would force them to confront the emptiness and the corruption in their own beliefs, and that's something clearly that they just can't bear to do. My message to you, especially young women, is that true fulfillment, it comes through things like motherhood, things like service, things like a strong and loving marriage, and most importantly, is a relationship with Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. These women, I believe they would sacrifice their integrity, even the joy of their own children. Heck, they might even sacrifice their children just to chase a false sense of power. And it has left them utterly unhappy, clearly. Jennifer Welch calling me unsufferable is really, really rich. In the meantime, I will continue to pray for these women. I will pray that they have eyes that can see, ears that can hear. I pray their hearts are softened. And I pray at the end of the day, they recognize Christ as the way, the truth, and the life, that there is only one exclusive path to God, that he is the ultimate source of truth, and that he is the giver of eternal life. Now, I'm going to go back to doing my job, being a mom. The studio is in my house, and so my husband is just on the other side of this door with our little baby. I'm going to go spend some time with her. I will see you guys next week.